gain by winning. And the fact that I've soiled myself in all this excitement, no, that's not part of the metaphor. Okay. Hannibal also smashed in the head of a goat. Again, for inspiration. Scipio, on the other hand, now arriving in the area, opted for the more classic route of a rousing pre-battle speech. Look at them men.
I just love the horses.
Weak, starved by the Alps, while we are the strongest military in the world. This will be easy, like 10,000 horse-sized ducks fighting a baby-sized baby. It'll be like Mike Tyson in his prime, kicking a baby. A tug of war between 10 sumo wrestlers and a... Help me out here, Ralph.
Baby?
A baby, sir? Yes, that's it. A baby. The point is, there is absolutely no possible way we could lose a battle this easy. So, if everybody's ready, on my mark...
I love that he's standing on the horse. And they get destroyed.
The Battle of Ticinus was over almost as soon as it had begun, as the Romans found themselves completely outmatched by Hannibal's famed lightning-fast Numidian cavalry, a key element in Hannibal's devastating double envelopment tactics.
Right.
In the chaos, Scipio was wounded. Thankfully, according to some ancient writers, his handsome 17-year-old son, Scipio the Younger, saw his father fall.
Oh no.
Scipio the Younger supposedly saved his father, and in the process, earned himself a lot of daddy's kisses. The Romans ended up fleeing the area, destroying the bridge behind them as they went. For a nation so overtly confident in victory, believing Hannibal to be an easy kill, the Romans found themselves running away with their tail between their legs. It was humiliating. And
I love that they have to write it. This is humiliating.
Know who thought so as well? The Celts. They began flocking to Hannibal's side, just as he'd hoped. Even Celtic troops fighting for Rome in the Roman camp began to reconsider. Man, I'm thinking we should try to join Hannibal. I hear you. Maybe we should bring him a gift. What do you think he'd like? Oh, I know.
And they're gonna cut their heads off.
Hey, Hannibal. We want to join your side, and we brought you a present. A gift? For me? I hope it's Roman heads. Oh, please. Oh, please be Roman heads. How did you know? Running away.
All right, let's get down to business. Otherwise, I get too involved and I say nothing, and then this becomes one of those bad React videos. Now, this is going to be very transformative in nature. Okay, let's talk about the equipment that we have seen so far. We're about 4 minutes in, and I have a lot to say. All right, let's begin with the weapons. So in this battle scene, we see that the Romans are using gladi, okay, this is a gladius, and the Carthaginians are using what appears to be a type of copies, I would say. I'm not discussing the shields just yet because I have a lot to say about those, but let's begin with the swords and then we talk about the helmets. Now, believe it or not, I know this is going to sound really strange, but in reality, if we want this to be historically accurate, the weapons should be swapped. Dun dun dun, plot twist, I guess. At this time, the Romans were not using gladi. It's too soon for this. When do the Romans start getting gladi? They copy them from the Carthaginians. In their respect, we're copying them, so the gladius, from original Hispanic swords that belonged to the tribes that by this time they had already subdued in the Iberian Peninsula, which was under Carthaginian control. The Celtic tribes of the Iberian Peninsula make the sword, pretty much the predecessor of the gladius. The Carthaginians give it to the troops. Some would have still had some copies, but in general, the Carthaginians are now using this sword of Spanish origin. And at this time, instead, the Romans are still using siphos and copies, but then they will copy them. When do they copy them? When Scipio Africanus takes the Iberian capital of Carthaga. So this still hasn't happened here. And that happens because they managed to pretty much capture over 2,000 smiths from that location, and so they tell them, all right, you are our slaves now, but we will treat you nicely if you produce these swords for us. In fact, what is the name of the first type of gladius used by the Romans? Gladius hispaniensis. So the Romans shouldn't have these swords. Now let's talk about the helmets. When it comes to the helmets here, we see that they are using the both sides are using the Montefortino helmet, which is this helmet here. And that is absolutely correct. The name Montefortino comes from the name of the location where these were found, but of course the Romans didn't call it like that, and we do know what the Romans called this helmet, and it's with the Latin term conum, which means cone. We find that information in La Lingua Latina. At this time, this would have been made of bronze, and possibly even iron as we get later in the period. Interestingly enough, however, on the Carthaginian side, at least when it comes to the contingents that would have been of Celtic origin, so those mercenary soldiers, so those conscript that came specifically from the Iberian Peninsula, they should not have the cheek plates. We know that they removed those. They didn't have cheek plates. So at least a section of these soldiers shouldn't have it. When it comes to the plumes that you see the Romans are wearing here, the Carthaginians should also be wearing them. And in fact, we are told by Roman sources that at least in the 2nd century, the Romans start wearing 3 plumes, and these are either red or black. So red is fine. Now let's talk about the shields. Now when it comes to the shields, you'll notice that the Roman soldiers here, apart from the gladius that they shouldn't have, they have these shields that have a wooden umbo, so the shield boss. That is correct because at this point in time the Romans did not have developed yet the metal umbo or the metal boss, but the Carthaginians did. So that's another thing that the Romans copied from them. And the fact that the Carthaginians don't have a metal umbo here is a little problematic from the perspective of historical accuracy. Last but not least, you see this late Republican shield, and for what I can see, I'll have to see if I can find a closer image, but it appears that they did go with a metal umbo here, which would be once again incorrect and inaccurate. Yeah, I can see here. Yeah, they went for the metal. This is a later invention that, as I say, they copy from the Carthaginians. So this should not be here just yet. But I've been pedantic enough for now. Let's continue.
Found themselves completely outmatched by Hannibal's famed lightning-fast Numidian cavalry, a key element in Hannibal's devastating double envelopment tactics. In the chaos, Scipio was wounded. Thankfully, according to some, his area, destroying the bridge behind their tail between their legs. It was humiliating. And you know who thought so as well? The Celts. They began flocking to Hannibal's side, just as he'd hoped. Even Celtic troops fighting for Rome in the Roman camp began to reconsider. Man, I'm thinking we should try to join Hannibal. I hear you. Maybe we should bring him a gift. What do you think he'd like? Oh, I know. Hey, Hannibal. We want to join your side, and we brought you a present. A gift? For me? I hope it's Roman heads. Oh, please. Oh, please be Roman heads. How did you know? Running away from Hannibal was humiliating enough, but having dozens of Romans beheaded in the night, now that's embarrassing. Ticinus had been a relatively small battle, but the psychological impact it had early on was huge, and it was only just a taste of what Hannibal was capable of.
Yep.
Despite the shocking initial loss, however, Rome still didn't seem to fully understand the danger posed by the monster now loose in their territory. The Senate was full of excuses. It's those traitorous Celts. That's why we lost. Yeah, and it was a cavalry battle. Wait until Hannibal faces our almighty legions. And our consul was bald. Once he faces our other fully follicled consul, then he'll really pee his pants.
How about me? Am I fully follicle to you?
That other consul, Longus, had been in the south all this time, preparing to invade Africa. He had seen some success, even capturing Malta.
Yeah.
But then he heard the news. Hannibal's in Italy?
Oh, Hannibal 1, Rome 0.